guys, I'm so excited. Today I am going to show you how to make this napkin holder. Now this napkin holder, it is super cute, and it has this beautiful gold detail in the middle there that I will show you how to make. It has this finger hole for you to pick up the napkins from there. It has feet, as you can see. I hope you can see there. I really like the way it ended up, and I have a small stack of napkins here. You can fit pretty much a whole pack of napkins in here. So there you go. When I put my napkins, now this finger hole will allow you to, grab one napkin at a time. It does have a little bit of room around, so in case your napkins are just a little bit larger, different brands, kind of a tiny little bit different size, but pretty well fit in there. I really like that little gold design, even though you don't see it when the napkins are inside. This box, I keep calling it box, this napkin holder is now available on my website for $79. And I think that is a very fair price because it did took me a few hours to make it, and especially this little thing over there, that took a little bit of time as well. Plus the materials, this is walnut, so not a cheap kind of wood. Really beautiful finish. I'm going to show you what finishes I use. This is two finishes combined together to get this finish, and really nice wraparound grain, as you can see. Super nice. I'm very excited about this. Let's get right into it and I'll show you how I did it. Now to start with, I'll be using this plank of wood. This is some walnut and maple. And the dimensions of this wood, it's a 1/2 inch thick. I already milled it to a 1/2 inch thick. It's about 36 inches long and is 3 1/4 wide. So this is the blank we'll be using for our napkin holder. And I already sand it to 150 because that way it will be a lot easier to sand this when it's on a one long piece than when it's cut into smaller pieces. Also, if you sand it when it's cut into smaller pieces, you tend to round over the edges as you go with orbital sander over it, and that will cause your miters not to close properly. So I sanded mine to 150. Why 150 and not 220? Because we will have some glue squeeze out, so we will have to do some more sanding afterwards, but it will be a lot less. We'll just use the 180 and 220 for that. So done to 150. Now our tissue box, the inside diameter, the inside size to fit my napkins has to be 6 inches. And in order to get that, I need to have 8 inches outside diameter. So I need to, well, first of all, before we cut this piece to the 8 inches, I need to put a groove where the bottom will sit in it so it holds the napkins. So I'm gonna put my groove on the bottom over here. For no reason, I could do it on this side, but I just decided to do it over here. So with the table saw, I'll be putting my groove first before I cut the pieces, because it's easier to make one groove through the whole board than do it after I cut the pieces into small pieces. And then if you make a little bit of a mistake, the groove doesn't meet perfectly. So it's better to make the groove before you cut your pieces. Now, how far from the edge do we need to put the groove? I have a little template here, and I'll show you how I made this, and I'll show you how to make it. But this is the outside diameter of our box. This is a template for making the feet and so on. So the distance from the bottom over here to the top of the legs to where this ends, it's a 1/2 inch. Then I'll be leaving this 1/4 inch material support, and then I'll be putting my groove over here to fit my 1/4 inch bottom. So we'll need to start our groove over here 3/4 inch from the bottom. So I will start at 3/4 and then I'll go upwards until it fits my panel. For the panel, if I would make a box, I would probably use hardwood, but because this is a napkin holder, I'm just going to use some plywood that has some walnut veneer, and this is a 1/4 inch plywood. And with this is great because I don't have to worry about expanding, so I don't need to leave any kind of extra room for it to accommodate for that. Very stable material, so that's what I'll be using for the bottom and to my napkin holder. Now, how deep should the groove be? Well, this is a 1/2 inch material, so I'll go a 1/4 inch, just about halfway into it. So that's how deep I'm going with my groove. So I set my table saw fence at 3/4 inch, and I actually decided I'll rather do the bottom, the legs on this side, the taller maple piece. So I set it at 3/4 inch, and this is 1/4 inch, just about half the distance of this tall. And I'm gonna run it over and then move the fence just a little bit that way away from the blade and run it one more time, and that should fit my panel. I put in the groove on the bottom of my board, and now this 1/4 inch veneered plywood, it fits perfectly in there. It's not loose, just really nice fit. And now it's time to cut the board into pieces. Now, remember I told you the outside diameter of my napkin holder should be 8 inches. So you might think that you will cut the pieces at 8 inches, which you totally could, but that will make your job a little bit harder. I'll cut mine at 8 1/4. If you cut it exactly at 8, then when you put the miters, you have to make sure to not chew from the length at all. So that's a little bit more tricky, but it will give you a better wrap around grain. I'm gonna do mine, this one doesn't have some spectacular grain or anything, so I'm gonna do mine at 8 1/4. So I'm gonna cut 4 pieces, 8 1/4 inches long. So I cut my pieces at 8 inches long. I use this sled with a stop block, actually 8 1/4 inches. And now I'm going to number them just so I know which order to put them back together in. So this one was the last one, so it's number 4, 3, 2, and 1. Oops, I just wrote over my box. That's all right, we'll send it. First, I'm going to raise my blade higher. Then I'm going to use one of these digital angle finders, put it on my table saw, turn it on and zero it. It is a 0. Then I'm going to attach it to my blade, not on the tooth, just to the blade. And now I'm going to move the blade until it says 45. So now that we are at 45 degrees, I'm gonna lower the blade and bring in my other sled. Okay. This one, it's a little bit stiff. I might have to remake it, but it's gonna work. I'm going to raise the blade to the appropriate height. Okay. And the first thing I want to do is establish 145-degree on one side of the board. I'm going to try to not remove any material or very little, but I still want to get a sharp 45 degrees. And let's see. You see, I have it the wrong way. Because if I cut it now like this, then this is going to become the inside of the box and my groove is on this side. So I have to make sure I keep it with groove up for this cut if I keep the piece on this side of the blade. So groove up, we're going to cut it like this. I have the 45 established on one side. I did get a lot of burnout, and that's because my blade is very, very dirty. I need to clean it. So now we have a 45 on one side. We will flip our pieces like this, and this side is going to go against my stop block over here. And then I'm going to slowly nibble away until I get the outside diameter of my box. This side has to be exactly at 8 inches. Now our miters are cut, and basically we could glue up the box, but we have to do one more thing first. I wanna make these feet. And I made this template out of a 1/4 inch plywood. I cut it with my laser machine. You can see the charting on the back, but this is how I made it. I'm gonna show you how so you can make it. Well, I cut it with a laser, but you don't need the laser. So this is 8 inches because our outside box it's 8 inches, so 8 inches long. This is 3¼ inches wide, 1/4 inch thick. And then the legs go from the bottom, it goes a 1/2 inch up, and basically you draw a line to the 1/2 inch mark, and then you take a washer or a coin or something and you round over, you know, you draw your rounded shape over there. That's how you round over the legs. And then for this hole, this is where you'll put your finger through to get the napkins. And this one, it's 1¼ inches in diameter. So just use some round object that is 1¼ inch in diameter. Trace the circle. So imagine this is the circle. Let me bring you in closer so you can see here. So imagine this is the circle and you're tracing it. I'm doing a very bad job right now here. So this part here is just the circle. And then you cut some straight lines upwards, which mine are not straight right now because, you know, I freehanded. But this is how I created this part. So what I need to do now is to use my template, and it will fit perfectly on my piece of wood because it's the same height, the same length. And I'm going to trace this template, trace the legs and this part over here. This part only goes on one of the sides, not in all of them, so just one. But the legs, I will trace it to all 4 pieces because, you know, all 4 of them need legs. So I'm going to trace that, and then I will be cutting it with my scroll saw really close to the line. And then I will use a flash trim bit to just, you know, clean it up and make it exactly as my pattern. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I could cut it with my scroll saw straight on the line. I am decent enough at scroll sawing where I can get a straight line and I don't need to do any sanding. But I'm assuming most of you guys do not have a scroll saw, so you can use your jigsaw, bend saw, whatever you have to cut the shape and then just flash trim it. So I'm gonna do that right now. I roughly cut all my pieces with the scroll saw, and now it's time to use the blue tape trick to temporarily stick this template to each one of the pieces so we can flush trim the cuts to make them really nice. So I'm gonna put some, oops, I'm going to put some blue tape, one in here, one in here, and then on my template, just like that. Then I will use some CA glue. This is just super glue. And let's see, I'll just put a dot in there. You don't need much. And some in there. We'll spray the accelerator on the template. And then we will place it on our piece of wood. Just like that. Hold it down for a few minutes. And I have a small flush trim bit here, and this is what I'll be using. I'm gonna set up the proper height. Hey you guys, I completely screwed it up, and this is what happened. I flush trimmed the part, so this is kind of the way the box looks. But then when I test fitted to see how my miters are looking, the miters are perfect, there's no gaps, everything looks beautiful, except when I got to the first to the 4th piece, my lines don't line up. And this was very frustrating, and then I realized what happened. What happened is This top piece of maple, I just took it from the scrap bin. It was, you know, a leftover piece. So that's why I married it with these other two strips to get a wide enough piece. I did not measure it. So what happened, it was, where is this happening? So you can see it's narrower on this side than it is on this side. So my strip was not even the width of it. And I just glued it to this and then I cut it to size. So now because of that, my pieces on the end, they don't meet each other perfectly. Well, they meet everywhere else, but just not there. So I quickly cut another box, this time just walnut because I didn't want to waste the time of gluing pieces and wait for it to dry. And I pretty much did the same process that we did so far with that box, so we'll continue with just the plain walnut from now on. The same size, same template, everything, so this is what we're working with. Now it's time to do the bottom part. And first of all, what I will do is cut an 8 by 8 inch piece of, this is just plywood that has walnut veneer on it. And 8 by 8 is going to be a little bit too big because the outside diameter of our box, I'm going to call it box even though it's a napkin holder. The outside diameter is 8 by 8 inches, but we only did the groove in the inside halfway, so about a 1/4 inch. So then a 1/4 on one side with a 1/4 on one side. So that means we need like a 7.5 by 7.5 piece of plywood to put here on the bottom. But I'm going to cut an 8 by 8 one for now because then I want to do something to just, you know, pretty up a little bit this box since it's just plain walnut. It really doesn't have anything on it. So I'm going to do something more interesting for the bottom, even though you don't see it because the napkins are sitting on it. So I'm going to first cut an 8 by 8 piece of this plywood. And then we're going to make a nice design in the middle and then we'll glue it into our box. All right, so here is my 8 by 8 blank, and it's just that plywood with the veneer. I want to put a design here, so I chose a geometric design. I'll be using this engravable, laser engravable gold foil, and I'm going to just cut a piece that will kind of go in the middle of my design. Now, you absolutely don't have to do this. I'm just doing this just because, you know, makes it a little bit more fancy so it's not so plain. So this has like a sticky back. And you want to put it as flat as you can onto the piece of wood. If you had a squeegee, that would probably be the best. I'm just going to eyeball mine and try to get it flat. There you go. And now I'm gonna try to burnish it and get all the air bubbles out of it. Something like that, it's perfect. So now it's flat. I am going to take it to the laser and we'll cut a pretty geometric design right in the middle of it. So here is our piece. As you can see, the layer cut that foil nicely. You can do this with any laser. I have a diode laser, 40 watts. The settings for this one, for my 40 watts, was power 7 and speed 50. I think you can do this even with a 5 or a 10 watts laser. It's really, it takes very little power. Now we have to remove all the foil that we do not want onto our design. And trust me when I tell you, you want to remove this as quickly as you can after you cut it with the laser. Because the longer this sits on your wood, the more it bonds with the wood and you're not going to be able to weave out the excess afterwards. I have a test piece over here that I left it for a few days and I cannot lift any more of this. I also tried different finishes on it and I just put tung oil. It doesn't seem to lift it and you can seal it and you know, it just stays there pretty much permanently. So now we just have to, I'm using my pointy little tool here, and I'm just removing all the pieces that should not be here. And you can see the way the process is happening. I'm removing what I don't want and just keep the lines that I want. Now, because I don't want to waste your time, I already went ahead and weaved all this on another piece. This one I did not cut it yet to the 8-inch mark. So, but I did do the gold foil and it's ready to cut to glue into our box. So I'm going to cut this to size and then we'll glue our box together. Now here is a good trick. If you don't know how big you should cut your piece of plywood to fit into the groove, I'm going to show you on this one because it's already held together with tape. You take a combination square. This is a good trick. Stick it into your groove and then lock it in place. So we know that's how deep it goes into the groove. And then you take your combination square and you make a mark here. And then the same goes in here because the groove, we did it all in one go, is the same distance. And then you take your tape measure and you measure between the 2 points. Can you see that in there? So from my 2 marks, if I measure, it's exactly 7.5. I'm going to leave less than 1/8 inch, 1/16 to 1/8 inch, so just so it has a little bit of room in there. So if this is 7.5, then I need to cut it at 7 and let's say 3/8. All right, you guys, I've cut the plywood to the correct size. What I will do, you see I have a little bit of jaggedy edges. Just take some sandpaper, just break down those edges so it doesn't, when I stick it into that groove, I don't want it to peel anymore. So just break down the edges just a little bit. Okay, now let's see how our joints will go. And because I numbered them, it should be really easy to put them in order. And you can see we still have pretty nice grain continuation. I don't know if you can see there. Let me get a little bit closer. Even though we didn't cut the pieces exactly to 8 inches, so we did remove about, 1/8 of an inch or so, or a 1/4 inch. I don't remember exactly what I did, but our grain will still wrap around pretty nicely. Where is it? Over here. And then this one, it will go like this and there. Can you see that? So there's our grain continuation. So this is not a completely wraparound grain. For that, you'll need to resaw a thicker piece of wood, and it's a completely different way of doing it. But for just this napkin holder, I think this is going to be good enough. So first thing I'll do is just take some blue tape, put it on one side, tug a little bit on the blue tape. It will act like a clamp. All right, what I would like to do now is flip it over and use some blue tape just to kind of help with the squeeze out. And I'm gonna go from the groove up. I don't wanna go over the groove because I need to get my plywood in there. And now I'm going to use Titebound 2, and I use the dark wood glue because I'm working with walnut. I want to use a darker glue. It will be less visible and it will blend in a lot better. So let's see, close this one like this. I'm gonna put this, make sure the design is inside the box. So I'm gonna stick that in there. And I'm not sure you're seeing anything. Let me adjust you here. And I'm just wrapping this around. All right, and it seems to meet perfectly. That's always good. It's always a sight of relief. I'm gonna put the blue tape for this edge as well. All right. This is what is looking so far. I think it's very cute. Let's see if I can put these thick rubber bands around it. I use this for my boxes. This is the number 107 rubber bands on Amazon. I will put the link in the description below. And if this fits, this would be fantastic. Let's see. Can I do this without destroying the box? Yay, it goes. All right. They should put nice even pressure all around. So I'll put one rubber band like this on the top part, and then I'll put another one on the bottom. Oh, this one feels stiffer. Please don't snap at me. There we go. Nice. This should give us really, really nice pressure. And I can see I have some glue dripping there. I want to get it because I can't sand much of that plywood because, well, it's veneered and I have that design on it, so I'm gonna try to remove it as quick as I can. All right, you guys, the box is dried up, and I did sand it and wiped it with some mineral spirits just to get rid of the dust because I'm about to put some finish on it. And our miters look good. The grain continues nicely from one side to another, and I'm very happy with the way it looks so far. This is our gold on the inside. And what I'll be doing now, I'll be putting poly finish on it. Normally, if you guys been following me for a while, you know I love oil and wax finish. But because I'll be selling this and I don't, like oil finish, after about a year or so, you have to reapply it to keep it look nice. And I'm pretty sure that whoever buys this is probably not going to want to refinish it. So I'm going to use a gel poly. If you have never used gel poly, well, you're in for a treat because it's really easy to apply and gives you a really nice result. However, the gel poly, this one, it's in satin, and I can tell you when it dries up, it looks very matte. And because it looks very matte, hold on a second. Once it dries, because it's matte, I'll be applying my Carnauba wax finish and polish. And this is going to give it a really nice satin sheen. It's going to make it super, super nice, a really nice feeling. It's not going to feel like plasticky. You know, when you put poly on something, it feels like plastic. Well, the wax is going to make it feel a lot nicer, smoother, nicer to the touch. And like I said, it's going to give it a beautiful sheen. So stay tuned. I'm going to show you how I do that. First, I'll put the gel on. Now to apply the gel poly, it's super, super easy. You just pretty much put it on the wood, let it sit for a few minutes and wipe it off. So I'm going to do that, let it dry for a few hours, and then we'll come back and we'll do the wax. I will be using gloves when applying this. This is what it looks like in the can. It is gel-like. Mix it well. Okay. And now I'm just going to use a foam brush. You can use a rag, you can use whatever you have around. I'm just going to use this and basically paint it inside and outside my box. So everything is coated. Now I will wipe it off. I will start with the inside because that's the part we did first. If you don't wipe off all the excess poly, whatever blobs you will have, it will dry into a shiny finish and it will be very obvious. And I don't need to use gloves for this because, like I said, it's all food safe ingredients, nothing to worry about. That's another thing I love about these products. If you want to purchase some of this Carnauba wax finish, I will put a link in the description below. And let's see, I'll just do by hand, just rub it into the wood here, just on this half of the board. And you can already see a nice sheen going on in there. I hope if my camera focuses, the light is not good, but you can see a nice flash of sheen over here versus the matte in here. So I'm just going to do this all over and buff it in a little bit, just to give it a little bit more luxurious feel. And just like that, our box is done and it's now available on my website at www.skylarewing.store. So head over there if you like this napkin holder, and if you want to purchase it, it will be available for $79.